It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Monday, June 26th, and so happy for you joining us today. And we are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. Now today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have 2G Talks with Eddie Kwan, the Sunday Message Word Study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? Yes, it is Monday once again, and I hope you guys had an amazing and awesome Sunday service. If you haven't yet, leave your likes and comments to build this community. Really happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. Oh, yes, this week's Sunday message, what a powerful message. People live by their thoughts, make your thoughts perfect, and then act. Great message. And for me, it's a pretty, I'm going to have to make a confession right now. It is confession time with Pastor Sky, and I am going to confess something that should have been done a long, long time ago. So, as you know, I think it was on Friday or Saturday, there was a message that Sunseem wrote a letter to all the countries. And one of the things he talked about was doing online services. And you know what, guys? I'm going to be super transparent with you guys. I've been online for years. Of course, we had it during the pandemic and such, but even until now, I've all been online. Even though I'm in Canada, I went to Malaysia, and the pandemic's basically over. People are going to church. I just didn't go. Right? I was just comfortable doing it at home, right? Doing it online. And, you just get used to it. You get used to it. And then because you get used to it and you don't like to change, you kind of give yourself reasons and excuses why it is something you should be doing. You know what I mean? So I was okay, so that announcement came out. Some of the leaders saw it a little bit early. Some seems don't watch online. This, and this. It's time, we got to cut off all the online and this, and this. And I'm just right. But, when you hear it from Sunseem, he's one of the only people, not only, but he's one of the people that can change your heart in an instant. And I'm just oh, gosh, I got to go to church kind of thing, right? So what happened was on Saturday, I spent some time, me and the guys from the church, we hung out and stuff, and these are all campus kids and stuff like that. Some of them are SS, but they're mainly campus. We're just hanging out and stuff like that, and the dinner ended, we played games, and then on the way home, I'm dropping someone off, and this one guy, campus guy, turns to me and says, he asked me the question, Pastor Scott, why don't you come to church for service, right? And for me, I was just have you guys ever had this? You have all the excuses and stuff in your head. It's all there, right? You know exactly what to say. But here's this campus kid asking me, Pastor Scott, and I'm more than double this kid's age, right? And just innocently, purely asking me, hey, are you going to come to church tomorrow? And I started to give my reasonings and my excuses, as I always do. But the crazy part was, listening to myself say these things to this, innocent person, who's just genuinely asking. When I hear myself, I'm just dude, those are crazy reasons. Those are crazy reasons for you to be, not going to service in person. And I was just it was God speaking to me at that time again. I hear it from the announcement Sunseem gave, okay, I gotta make up my mind. And have you guys been through that? When you kind of listen to yourself, ooh, that's not a very good reason. Ooh, that's just total excuse more than anything else. And then I was all right. I went home. I prayed before I went to bed. And then I'm yeah, you gotta go. You gotta go to church tomorrow, right? And it's time to just switch things up. Don't worry about, just do it, right? But it's when you wake up in the morning, you gotta get back to that, maybe just, in my head, I'm like, maybe just this week, I'll start from next week. You have that thinking like, I'm going to start from next week. And I was like, I'm going to start from next week. And then I'm just like, forget it. I'm just like, I had to reconvince myself again. Because I was that I think that's the difference that's kind of what Sunsi was talking about in the Sunday message, how our thoughts change day and night. At night, I was like, I'm going. And then in the morning, I'm like, I don't want to go. Maybe I'll go next week. And it was just really, really interesting just to see my thoughts go back and forth and then hear the message saying we live by our thoughts, right? The thoughts are life. The thoughts are what make us succeed and fail. So I went to church. I put on a suit that I haven't worn for maybe 3 years. Yeah, I haven't worn this suit in 3 years. And I'm like, does it even fit? And now, since I've lost some weight, my pants fit for sure. But because I've been working out, like my shoulder's a little bit broader. So the shirts are a little bit tight, which kind of makes me feel really cool and feel more manly because my shirts are tight because of my muscles. So I was sitting there like going, oh, okay. So I went to church. I was really happy. I got to see people's faces. And then, of course, the education came out, what Sunsi read to the audience, read to all the members, saying that, I've been, doing this message for it takes me 3 days to receive this message. Don't you value it? You got to come to church to listen to it. I'm just like, thank you so much that I came to church, that I listened to this. I came to church to give glory to God. So yeah, it's now that I've done it, it's so much easier for me to just keep going and stuff like that too. So yeah. It's like when Sunsi says it, it's kind of like, it's not like no choice, but it's like the one that pierces you like, you gotta go. And I was like, all right. And I went to church. I loved it. Just being in that atmosphere, so much different than doing it at home or online, whatever it is. But I am very grateful and thankful that I was able to listen to the message and go in person. So yes, that is my confession, my 3-year confession. So he's like, pandemic's over, right? And he's like, the pandemic it's not on anymore. I was like, I know, I just got these excuses and I'm too comfortable. And then Sunsi was like, yeah, comfort is what kills you, right? When trying to get too comfortable is what brings you to death. And I was like, that is so true. So listen to the word really, really well. And that is Confession Monday with Pastor Sky. So yeah, Sunsi said it, got to do it. And I just, I did it. So it's a little bit late, but it's better now than never. And I know that if I was at home and I listened to, the announcement of what Sunsim, the education Sunsim gave for service, I think I would have been crushed. I'd be like, oh, you loser. You might as well just kill yourself kind of thing. Like, you kind of get yourself into that like really down mode and stuff. But very, very thankful and grateful. So yeah, either way. Yeah. So I had an interesting weekend too. A lot of different things that happened. One thing is like, I eat with my parents. My parents, when we're eating, we talk, but they also leave like these Korean programs on. And there's these singing programs. And we're just talking and talking, and then all of a sudden I hear this person singing. And I'm like, what? I was like, wait, I know this song. And the song in Korean is called like Achim Isel, which is like the morning dew. But we actually, way back in the past, we had a Providence song called Providence Dew, right? That was made according to this song. And when I heard it, I'm just like, whoa. And it just brought back so much nostalgia, so much memories. I'm just like, what? You guys know Providence Dew, the one that, for those of you guys from the old school, like we're talking way in the past. The song that goes, Providence Dew, goes, truth burns in every heart, ever hotter with time. Then the sorrow of our hearts is a trial of providence. Now I am on my way towards a new history. Casting all regrets aside, now I am on my. Like, do you guys know this song? I'm very, very certain that probably like 10% of you know that song. But that was the old school song made from like old Korean songs and such. But I was listening to this song and this rock singer singing it in a new way. It was so good. It was so good to listen to, but just to see this amazing singer sing it. And they sang it so well that people in the audience were tearing up and crying, right? And I was just like, wow, this brought back like 20 years ago in Providence. The music was so different, but I'm gonna tell you this: when I came to Providence, it didn't really matter because this was, I was so happy. Coming to Providence, being in the new history, just happy. The music never made a difference to me. Well, the music was something like, it was kind of weird to me because it's like a different style, but I was just happy to be in Providence, and that was a big difference for me, and it just brought back so much nostalgia. So that's one thing that I thought was quite interesting. Oh, I got some good news and an update. Remember I told you about a month ago that my crypto wallet got hacked all because of it's my fault, and I lost a ton of money, right? I lost a ton of money from my crypto wallet, and I was going to bring this up last week, but I've got everything back and more. Like, I've already remade everything and back and more, and I'm super thankful that God helped me, and I'm glad I didn't get so down about it. Remember when I first talked about my getting hacked? I was just like, you know what? You think about it, and by nighttime, I'm like, you know what? You made that before. Go make it again. Go make it again. I'm like, yeah, I just make it again. That's all I have to do, and that's what I did, and I made more than what I lost. So I am super super thankful to God, and actually, I brought it up to my parents now, like just on the weekend. I said, hey, I just want to let you guys know that my crypto wallet got hacked, and I lost an X amount of dollars. They're like, what? You lost that much money? I was like, yeah, and then I told them. Yeah, and then I made it all back, and I have this. I made this much now. They're like, "Whoa!" Right? And they're like, "When did this happen?" I was like, "About a month ago." And my mom was like, "Oh, really? Like we couldn't tell. Like you were just normal, right?" And they're like, it kind of felt like one of those. Like I told them, like, yeah, I don't want to worry you guys, so it's all over now. They're like, yeah, that's the way to do it. And my dad told me like straight up, he's like, that's the best lesson. The best schooling is life. So he said, that's an expensive lesson you learned, but it's better than going to school because you'll never forget that, right? And I was like, it's so true. And, the best experience we have in life is life itself, right? We can learn all the things of what people say with their lips or in a school book, but ultimately the best teacher we're going to have is life itself and going through all those things. Yeah, for me, it was quite expensive, but I'm really, really grateful and thankful that God grabbed my heart and my mind so I wasn't so down about that. But super grateful and thankful I got everything back and more. So super happy. Actually, if I'm going to be super transparent with you right now too, I have 4 times the amount back already. Yeah, I got 4. Yeah, 4 times the amount back. So I'm just like, thank you so much, God. So, yeah. Also, I had a couple calls over the weekend too. 2 calls from, remember last week I told you guys I was so happy on Friday because someone called and just able to help because they're reaching out, they're telling me about their situation, and I'm able to just kind of give them help them with some reason and rationale and just tell them about what's going on around the world and what's happening within these trials and everything else like that. And I remember I was so excited and thankful for that. I got 2 more calls over the weekend too after I kind of made that. I told people to come reach out to me if anyone wants to just talk about the situation, if they don't really know what's going on, or if there's something that you want to ask questions about. And yeah, 2 people contacted me over the weekend, and I was super happy to talk to them and listen to them too. And like when I listen to some of the things, it's really unfortunate what's happening in some churches. But I really, really feel right now, especially with this community in MSD, it's a time for all of us to come together, to come and support each other. And, we don't know exactly what's happening, but, with other people, but it's something we can all pray about together. Like, just ask God to help those in the difficult situations and help them so that they can speak up and so they can fix these situations. So once again, I give that call out to everyone out there. Those of you who are struggling or feel like the situation is hopeless, you feel helpless or alone, I know the situation may not be ideal in your church or your country. And some countries are worse than others. And I understand that, it's so easy to feel alone or helpless, but this is a time that all of us need to pull together as one history, pray for each other, support each other, help each other out. And, I bring that, I kind of give that announcement once again. I am always open to talking to anyone out there who may need help, answering questions, or just listening to the situation. I've listened to people from everywhere: South America, from Europe, Oceania, Southeast Asia, Korea, North America. And, some people might feel like, oh, it's such a burden to ask, to get someone to spend their time on it. But I'm going to be super honest with you right now too is there's no burden, right? And one of the reasons why I kind of, while talking to a bunch of people, one of the reasons why I feel like people feel burdened to like ask me or talk to other people is probably because everyone thinks that every other church is dealing with their own problems. They're all in the same situation, but the answer is they're not. Not everyone is struggling the same. Some countries are handling it so well, have no massive issues, and others are struggling a lot. So just know that this is a place, a community where all of us can come together, say what you need to say, and if you need to talk, like I said, I'm open. And if, just DM me, text me, whatever it is on Patreon and Instagram, Kakao, Telegram, over here in the comment section, I will talk. I'm very, very open, right? And I'm going to tell you right now is you may think or assume that other situations are the same, but you will never know until you open up and find out from other people, right? I'm going to be very, very honest with you right now too is there are very few countries that are struggling to the extreme. Very few. Yeah, there are countries that are struggling, right? Because, you can't help but struggle. But there are some, very few countries are super struggling. And a lot of them are, kind of back to normal again too, right? So I even, we all think that Korea is like so terrible and so bad. But, we look at some countries also, like some people would go visit Korea recently. And it's not like, it doesn't seem like it's like the most dire situation. They're handling it very, very well in Korea, right? Yes, I know it's hard to say something sometimes because I know that it's easy to think that other countries have to deal with their own situation. Why should they deal with yours? But, and especially in this time of chaos, who's kind of hypersensitive and you kind of feel like you could cause more damage by talking about it. One of the reasons why people are getting to their breaking point is because the situation it stays the same and people are just enduring. And people, everyone has a limitation. We're human. We're physical human beings. We have a limitation to how much we can endure before we mentally or spiritually break, right? And this is why you have to talk about it, right? Eventually, you're going to get so weary, so tired that you're just going to give up. You don't want to do anything anymore. And you get exhausted. You stop caring. So it's much better to say something to someone. And I'm going to tell you guys, I will be your personal punching bag. Like if you need to yell at someone, come yell to me, right? Say, oh, I can't understand that. I can't this. Oh, blah, 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 blah. I'll be your personal punching bag. If you need someone to vent, you can vent on me also, right? So please say something, even though it may be a little bit difficult. We need to get through it together. We need to get through it together. Ultimately, in the end, it's actually, we have to think about our own health too. Like, we can't save other people if we can't save ourselves. It's like trying to save someone from drowning, but you die along the way, right? So, once again, open call, anyone who needs to talk, and you want to talk to someone outside of your church, outside of your country, because it kind of feels like you're an echo chamber, please let me really, really, I'll do my best to be your personal punching bag. You can call me that. My new name is Sky the Punching Bag. The P is no longer pastor, it's punching bag Sky, right? So, and there's some people that they may, like, churches may not understand or know it, but some people feel they're being emotionally abused, right? Like people saying bad things about you, saying you're crazy, saying you're stupid, or like they'll make you feel like you're the bad person. Right? But you don't have to go through that, right? People, if anything, people should be respecting each other. And if one side doesn't respect, there's no point of talking to those people anyways, right? There's no point. So if you can lay the lines out, it's like, hey, I don't want to talk about this. Thank you for bringing it up. And if they kind of abuse you, there's no point of even being there. Yeah, you could just say, I'm sorry, and then you move on, right? If anything, we give respect to each other. And even to the other side. And if they are going to yell and scream, there's no point of moving forward with it. It's just the agree, You just got to agree to disagree, right? So this is a shout out to all the MSD fam out there. This community is awesome. And this is even bigger time for us to shine. It's a bigger time for us to help each other even more and make sure that we band together, help each other through prayer, and support everyone as much as we can. And, I'm going to tell you right now, seeing what's happening right now as people are calling and, they're struggling with certain things, it just shows how much this platform is evolving. It's evolved so much, and you can tell we're becoming a bigger community. Because the original purpose of this channel, originally when I made it, was for members to have something to listen to instead of listening to the worldly channels that talk about like meaningless things, right? But instead, we can, through the MSD, the podcast, we can talk about things that we understand, we want to listen to, whether it's the word, what's happening around the world. And I did it especially for people commuting to and from work or school, right? Or you could be cleaning at home. And I wanted it to eventually become a platform for members to make a community for English-speaking members around the world to connect using social media platforms that people in the world are using for worldly things, but we can use it for God, right? So I wanted to be that type of community, different, right? A different community, more transparent, open to talk about all things, right? And we may not be able to do, we talk about the things we couldn't talk about in our own churches, or the churches won't even talk about, or maybe not sure if it's something we're allowed to talk about, but I wanted to make this platform so everyone can really, really be connected, right? And so it started to grow for the first 3 years like that. And then this year, because remember, I started this on March 16th in 2020. This year was March 12th. So at the 3-year mark, March 16th, just 4 days after that, is when it kind of changed again. It not changed. It evolved where it came a place for us to come to reality in terms of the chaos that happened from March, right? We were able to be transparent about the situation and also reason and be rational how to deal with it. And it became something where people can listen to and say, oh yeah, I should be more calmer about this. And it became kind of a safe haven or a refuge for people during this chaos. And then now we see that the chaos is kind of dying down. In most places it's dying down. We're kind of moving into a new stage of a community, which I think is great. Like, we've come to the point where people who don't have any relationship with me, they know who I am from the podcast, but they don't know me personally, but they'll reach out to me and they'll say, hey, I need to talk. Can I ask you some questions? Can I get some support here? And now we've grown into a channel where we're kind of becoming a community. And this makes me super thankful and proud of this platform, that we've grown to this level, that we made this community. I have people reaching out to me from all these different countries, people I've never met before. But everyone out there in the MSD fam, you guys need to know, if you didn't contribute in the comment section or listen, this would not have become a comfortable community for people to relax and enjoy and get insights, information, and we're all a part of this. So I am super thankful, super grateful for everyone out there. You guys have made it the reason you have made it the way it is. And this is why we have like over 1,000 subscribers. And remember, think about this. If you're talking about English speaking countries, we have like how many do we have? 1,100? No. 1,100. You guys got to know how big that is when it comes to the English world. Why? Because we barely have that many members in English speaking people in the world. Like, let me give you an example. America has like 500, less than 500, right? So there's less than 500 right there. Canada has like 100 and something. You have Europe that has less than 100. So even then, we're not even at 700 yet, right? And then if you take, those are like the main places that are speaking English. On top of that, you have like Singapore that has like 150 or something along that line. So that brings it to about 750, 800 maybe, right? And then I don't know how many other English-speaking countries, like you have Australia and New Zealand. That doesn't even make up 100 there, does it? Does it make up 100 there? So when we have 1,100, it means that we're almost covering the entire Providence world of English-speaking people. Tell me that's crazy, right? And that's kind of the limit of our, because it's only for members, that's kind of our limitation is where we're at right now. And that's why I'm even grateful and thankful. Like, wow, we have this many people, which is about the same amount of people that speak English in province around the world when it comes to English-speaking countries, right? So we're all part of this community. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. And every Monday, as I tell you guys, if you guys are inspired by this community, if you're inspired by all the different programs we have, from the Man Cave to the Provipuff Girls to Love and Life, the Prayer Podcast, we got Until the End with Daniel Baker, Health is Happy. We have all these like amazing programs that are happening from you guys. I hope if you're inspired, you can support us, support this ministry, support this community on Patreon. Even the small support is going to help, because that's the whole point of crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is a ton of people giving small amounts of money monthly, and it adds up to a lot, right? If 1,000 people give $1 a month, that is $1,000 a month, which is awesome, right? So what we do is we have it here. We have a monthly subscription of like $3 a month on Patreon, or you'll save more money, and if it's $36 US a year for the entire year. So it's not a lot of money, right? This is kind of like what we'll spend on maybe 2 meals, right? About $36 US, right? So, of course, you can always support more. Super grateful for everyone out there who've been supporting since the beginning. And if you'd like to support us, go ahead, click on the blue button in SoundCloud, or you're going to see it in the links below for Patreon. And I do believe you're going to see it in the banner head here too, the black on the banner head at the very top of this channel. On the top right, or the bottom right corner of the banner head, you're going to see a P in white, and that's Patreon. And if you support us there, we'd be super grateful and thankful. If you're inspired, we would love to get your support. All right. Last thing before we go to our first break is coffee tip of the day. Coffee tip of the day, and I've been doing this for a while now, for maybe the last week and a half. This is a very, very great sign that you're in a good cafe. This is a very good sign. It's not 100%, but most of the time you're going to know this is if the cafe serves pour over coffee, then you know that, it's a very, very good sign. It is a good cafe with good coffee. It's a good sign, right? It's not 100%, but it's a very, very good sign. Why? Because it takes time, it takes skill, and it costs money to invest in the pour over equipment. And it takes, these people are willing to invest in this equipment, which means that they are definitely people who care about the coffee that they're giving. So great tip. If you go into a cafe, it's a good cafe is if they serve pour over coffee, right? They'll have this special thing to pour water. It's got a very, very narrow spout, right? They got all the equipment, including the measuring. They measure the grains, everything else. It's very, very important. But if they have that pour over coffee, it's a great sign that is a good cafe. Okay? All right, guys, there it is. That's kind of the first things I want to talk about today. So let's get into the first break for the day. All right, so let's get into today's word study for today. And of course, every single Monday, we have the Sunday message word study. And what a great message it was. And yes, it was even greater because I was literally physically at church. Yes, you heard my confession at the very beginning. People live by their thoughts, make your thoughts perfect, and then act. Great message, especially when I was telling you guys last night my thoughts were correct. This is the right thing to do. Sunseam talked about it. Why would I not listen to Sunseam and just start, continue to watch it online when I can easily go to church? I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it, right? And then in the morning, my thoughts change, and Sunseam was like, yeah, people's thoughts change day and night. And it completely changed day and night where I was rethinking and going back on my promise from the night before, right? People live by their thoughts, so make your thoughts perfect and then act. Right? And this is something we've heard a lot when Sunseam talks about thoughts are life. That's one of the best, one of the biggest proverbs and most famous ones we heard. Thoughts are life, right? Checking is life. Check and then take action. What was it called? Is it check and then take action? Check first and then take action. Well, there's another one that has that type of similar feeling. Is you have to check first before you take action, right? And that's basically. That's kind of all of our thoughts over the last pandemic, and all the chaos is we don't check our thoughts and then our minds run wild and it goes in a completely different direction. And we need to think with that knowledge, live according to what we know, and we have to change our thoughts into spiritual thoughts, right? So the key point is, a big thing we have to think about is we need to focus and get ourselves focused so well to the point that our mind reaches the spiritual thoughts, right? Because, if we don't reach the spiritual thoughts, what level are we hanging out? What level are our thoughts hanging out in? It's hanging out in the physical realm, which means according to our own thoughts, our own opinions, right? Our own ways of doing things, right? Just like me, when I wasn't going to church and doing it all online, I have my own way of thinking. These are my excuses that sound good to me, but all it's doing is confirming what I really want, just to be comfortable, right? So we got to be focused and we got to reach that spiritual thoughts. And I hope that we'll receive that type of inspiration when it comes to this week's messages also. The script, we had two scriptures. One was a tax about collecting the 2 drachma tax, but the second one, the parable of the lost sheep, was the one that got me. That was something that it kind of, sometimes people misunderstand Sunseam so much because of these situations. And when I think about this, I'm like going, wow, this is so deep, right? And when you think about the parable of the lost sheep, the shepherd will go out, leave the 99 to find the one, right? They'll leave the 99 to find the one. But it's like the way that the word was put was so true is most people are relieved that, oh, I only lost one. And I came back with 99. Guess what, guys? I have a 99%. If I had an exam and I got 99%, I'd be so happy. But we need to realize that whose thoughts are different than others. It's, God's thoughts are different than our thoughts. It's Isaiah 55 verses 8 through 10, or is it 9 through 10, 8 through 10, right? God's thoughts and our thoughts are so different, like the heavens and the earth, right? The thoughts that we need to have to be different than other people, right? It has to be different than the level of people. But it's so true, we would rather settle and say, oh, thank God we only lost one. But then God's thoughts are so different from ours, where it's one person's missing, let me leave the 99 and look for that one person. He has to save that one person. And that's kind of in the name of the mission, which is Savior. Savior has to save. So even if one is lost, you have to save. The thoughts are so different. The mentality is so different. The heart is so different than us, right? That when we're on such a physical level, we're only thinking that way. So if you look at the way, a lot of times where people have come against Sunseam, it's for that very reason. There's all these people with great faith, all these people who are doing so well, have all these merits, and then Sunseam leaves them all behind and gives the time to the person, to those 1 or 2 people whose faith have died. And the people get upset, like, what? How come you spend your time with them when we're the ones doing well? And when you think about it, it doesn't make any sense when you think about that, right? It's like, wait, if we're doing well, do we need that acknowledgement? You know what I mean? Like, of course, and it's not like Sunstein doesn't give acknowledgement. People are upset that Sunstein gives his time to those that are unfaithful, not those that are faithful. Right? And people would complain, why do you give those time to the people that don't listen? Why do you give your time to the people that always, betray you? You have, and when we think about this week's, the word, like this week's message, what Sunstein's like is like, hey, do you think I'm doing this on my own? No. Jesus tells me to do it. I'm there to save their life, and I'm doing exactly what Jesus says. And this is why we need to realize how different our thoughts are from God's thoughts. The things that we complain about, should we really complain about it? That's an interesting thing, right? Should we even complain about those types of things? And we have to be those that are on God's side. And to be on God's side, if you don't have the same thoughts, same level of thoughts as God, then you're just going to complain. Why is it like this? Why is it like that? But if you had the thoughts of God, if you're at the same level, you're like, that's why God's doing that. I understand. Yes, God, they need it more. I'm doing well. I'm fine, but they need it more. Great, God. You can, go ahead, take care of these people. But instead, we keep our thoughts at the same level, so we're stuck in our own echo chamber in our own minds, thinking what we think is right. When it's so different, we got to listen to the word, right? Through the word, our thoughts reach the level of God. We understand, this is the way God thinks. We're not here to complain. We're here to say, this is what it's supposed to be, right? That's why the message is like, hey, that one wrong thought can change your entire destiny. It can change your entire destiny, right? This world is, over 8 billion people are now living in this world, right? The vast majority of them in the poorer countries, but there's over 8 billion people. And even if they look mature, if they're 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, their spirits are still like children because they don't know the history is happening right now, right? And this is why we have to be those that aren't just listening to the word. What's another big thing that came out of the message? Well, pray deeply. Pray deeply. Become united with God. Become united with the Holy Spirit. Become united with Jesus, but you gotta pray deeply. And what happens when you pray deeply? It's when you realize like the deep shimjung, the deep thoughts, the deep secrets. And you'll and the word used in the message was shockingly realize. You'd be like, oh my God, I couldn't believe this. And, we have to be those that understand like the value not only of ourselves, but of lives out there, that they're the people that need to be saved, right? God is watching all of us, and he sees all of us who have the wrong thoughts, right? And God, eventually, if we don't change our thoughts, everything gets revealed, right? Like even for me, I'm revealing it before God reveals it about my mistake of not coming to church and doing it all online. I'm revealing it first, right? I'm like going, last thing I want is for God to reveal it, right? Where all of a sudden in the message it's like, and those of you who are online, you lost salvation. I'll be like, no! And then I'll come to church with my tail tucked between my legs. No, right? God, in the end, God is going to reveal to everyone those who are living the false way and those who are living faithfully, right? And we need to be those that before God judges, we have to judge ourselves. Before God judges. Look, we got incorrect thoughts all the time. And that's why we got to check our thoughts with God. And this is why even when it comes to like revelations, remember when people had revelations and stuff? Like people were the revelation receivers? Yeah, even them, even though they got a revelation, they can't just share it. They have to do what? They have to get it checked through the word. They have to get checked through prayer, through the man of mission. It's all got to be checked. We, right, have to like one thing God said during the message was, become one, truly become one with the man of mission who saves you. And if we become one with him, then we will not be tempted. Then we'll not be enticed. Then we'll not be dragged away by Satan's and evildoers. Become one with the man of mission. It's through what? Through prayer and the word. One of the things that was really shocking to me, but it makes sense, but if you think about it, is if you think incorrectly, usually if you do something incorrectly and you take action, if you think incorrectly and take action, that is sin. It makes sense too, right? A lot of people in the Bible made mistakes. At the end of the message, Sunsteve talked about all the different people that made mistakes. It's just they had the wrong thinking. Whether it was King Saul had the wrong thinking about David, right? King Saul had the wrong thinking about, oh my gosh, the war's about to start and Samuel's not here. I'll do the sacrifice on my own, right? No, it's something that we have to recognize and realize too. If we think incorrectly, then we are the ones that cause sin to happen. And it's better for the sin to just be in your head than go into action and affect a lot of other people. This is why we got to repent every day. We've got wrong things happening all the time, and we got to check them, and check them, right? Repent in your daily life. Repent for your family, your nation, for all of Providence, for the entire world. But don't ever forget to pray for the one who's trying to save you, right? One part I thought that was very interesting when the message was talking about drinking the bitter cup with the man of mission. That was an interesting one, because it's like this bitter cup is not for everyone. Not everyone should drink that bitter cup, because not everyone can handle it, and if you can't handle it, you'll eventually die. I'm like, that is so true. Not everyone can handle it. And, sometimes people are like, oh, why don't you ask me? Well, sometimes people can't handle it. That's why kids are like that too. Children will say, oh, God, Dad, why can't I go? I remember one time, my dad was like, when he cuts the grass and he uses the edge trimmer, right? And I would always want to work on the edge trimmer. I would always want oh, Dad, I want to do it. And I'm like at what, 8, 9 years old. My dad's like, no, it's too dangerous. Get away, get away, get away. And one time I just kind of watched him. And I was like standing a bit away from him. And when he was using that edge trimmer, a rock from there flew and hit my eye. And I was scared, like, oh my gosh. And that's why your dad's like, you're too young. But kids think that they're old enough. And what makes it even more difficult is, in Providence, most of us are adults, and we still have that problem where we think we're the appropriate person to drink that bitter cup, but we're not. We need to bear, and we have to drink the small and large bitter cups, depending on your level. And one of the things that people don't recognize or realize is sometimes people think that they're at a higher level than they really are. And we have to be those that have to be self-aware or even talk to other people of why this is happening, right? And we have to, this is the time. This is a time right now for everyone to reflect during this time of repentance once again. Another part that I thought was really hopeful was, hey, guess what, guys? Seasons change. When winter passes, spring comes. But in the same way, the time will come when the tribulation passes. The time of peace will come again. The spring of this time period will come again. But at that time, what God could not give you during the time of tribulation, he will give to you just like he gave Job. So comfort each other in the meantime. Guide each other. Show each other mercy. Clear up the misunderstanding, right? Make sure that you don't get discouraged. Other people don't get discouraged. We have to bring each other together so that we will receive the blessings after the winter has passed. Everyone, Sunsteve's saying it, the winter's going to pass by and spring's going to come. So don't be too freaked out. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this? What am I going to do? No, don't be freaked out about those things. What God is telling us right now is there's going to be a time where it's all going to pass and the time of peace will come. And that's the hope we need to have. And this is absolutely true with everything in life. Guide and show mercy. Clear up misunderstanding. Make sure you don't get discouraged. Other people don't get discouraged. Always act as the Lord's body, taking action as much as you can. Right? We got to spread that fire into everyone's heart so that they have hope. If your church has no hope, you got to talk about it. Right? That's why some people will call me, because the church has no hope. It's just sitting there getting beaten down, and everyone is just enduring. We have to guide each other, show each other mercy. And that's why the leaders play such a huge role in this history right now, especially in the time of chaos, is when you need the leaders the most. If the leaders are gone, if the leaders don't do anything, they're not doing what leaders should do, and you need to find a leader, right? Just because someone was your leader before, but if they step down, it doesn't mean they're your leader anymore, right? Remember, one thing that Sunseam says is, when the mission is given, the power is given with it. But if you step down, that power is taken away because you don't need that power to lead many people. And that's why you need to find someone who's going to instill hope back into the church. Got to get it back. Remember, history always starts out humble. It starts off small. Sunseam by himself in a small church in Samsung-gyo, right? It's very small in the beginning. Results are small in the beginning too. But don't be disheartened. Don't be discouraged. Don't be disappointed. Just got to be consistent. Got to be consistent. One thing I like what Sunseam said is, guess what? In the beginning, small and shabby, it's okay. In the beginning, it's always like that. Small and shabby, it's okay. That's the time to learn. That's the time we get more and more competent. That's the time we meet more and more, and then as we get more and more competent, we meet more and more competent lives. It's that big and that important, right? And I hope it's something that we'll realize is you're not meeting competent people because you're not competent. That's just the way it is. It's almost like if you're not the level of a CEO will never listen to you. It's just the way it is, right? It's just the way it is. It always happens in this way. That one part of the message was, wow, that part of the message when he talks about handicap faith, I'm like, pooh, that's so, like he went straight in. It's like, and you guys got to think about this. What does it mean to have handicap faith? Don't listen to the word deeply. And I'm going to tell you right now is, remember, this is talking generally. When it comes to that's what it hit me about, stop watching it online, go to church. If you're not always listening to the word deeply, you can go to church and, you know that you're giving, some people, it's okay. There's always exceptions to it. Sometimes you talk about people who are pregnant, people who are sick, all these are different things like that, right? And all of us know whether we can go or not. We all know it's not easy. But if you listen to the word, you can say that you're handicapped in faith because you're not listening to the word that deeply, right? That's the way to see it. I was like, oh, am I handicapped or not? Right? Some people are just trying to fulfill their own, why are you handicapped in faith? Because you're only in province to fulfill your own dream. Why can't people recognize me? Why won't you give me a title? Why won't you give me a mission? Why won't you do this? Why doesn't Sunseam say hi to me? Why does Sunseam spend more time with this person? That's fulfilling your own dream, right? That's a complaint of not being recognized, right? And the reason you're always asking for recognition is because you didn't grow properly, right? You don't grow properly, you don't bear fruit. We got to get out of it. Got to get out of it, right? Handicapped people, they'll stay for a short time, right? They'll talk a lot, not a lot of action, right? And, this is not saying that you have, handicapped faith doesn't mean you have all of the above. It just means even if you have just one of these things, you're handicapped. And that's the things we need to fix. Interpreting the word in a physical way, right? You hear something from the word, but it's something that you're really angry about, and you'll say, but the word said this, And then what happens is these people who are thinking this way are delivering and teaching others in the exact same way. These are people that are seriously spiritually disabled, and they eventually leave. And this is why we need to make ourselves. Find the areas you're disabled in, make yourself. Because the brides of God, can they be handicapped in faith? The answer is no way. How embarrassed, if you're handicapped in faith. Right? Aren't you embarrassed if you're with someone and they say the wrong things in public? You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just said that here. You don't want to be around them. That's why we have to listen well, speak carefully. Great point. Listen well, speak carefully. What's the key point of this week's message, guys? Even just one wrong, incorrect thought, you will end in destruction. You will fail in life. Your destiny will be determined from that one wrong thought. And this is why we have to think really well every day. Check it. check with God, check with the Holy Spirit, check with Jesus, check through the Word, check through prayer. Is this the right thought I should be having? Is this a thought I should be taking when I'm taking action? We have to be those that change. Got to repent, wash off that dirt every day. Because in the end, if we don't wash that off, God repays us for everything we did not repent for. Right? In the end, everything's revealed. So I really hope that everyone, when you listen to the message, that we thought more deeply about it, that we bring ourselves to, come to our senses. We got to have the proper thinking, proper thoughts. All right? Yes, it is a different, it's a great message, and it's something that we're all struggling with right now. So, don't think you're the only one. We're all struggling with it, and I hope that we can help each other and become that great community once again to help each other and support each other in these thoughts too. Okay? So there it is, guys. That is the word study for today. Hope you guys really, really enjoyed that. Let's get into our second break for the day. Okay, so let's get into our final segment for today. And of course, every single Monday, we have 2G Talks with Eddie Kwan, who is currently over there in San Francisco. And he wrote me an email about this episode, and he says, he wants to bring this 2G Talks with more, wants to be more detailed about it. And he wants to be very specific in what he wants to talk about. And he wants to focus on sharing, asking questions, and talking about certain topics from the perspective of a second gen, and also a way to bridge these different groups together. So, this was actually the original intent of the segment he did from the very beginning. But now he wants to go forward with it even more, right? And be even more specific about, sharing, asking questions about how to connect these second gens also. Okay, so I hope everyone enjoys this, and I hope that we can have this time together. This is going to be a great time. Once again, everyone, please welcome all the way over there in San Francisco. This is Eddie Kwan with 2G Talks.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another week's episode of 2G Talks. So this week I'm very excited because in a way it's shifting direction somewhat, but at the same time it's maybe kind of getting back on track to what this segment was supposed to be about too. I'm so thankful for all the support that you guys have given me over this close to a year and a half at this point. And so as this channel was, as a segment on this channel was supposed to be about always, and it has been throughout the last year and a half as well. I'm trying to go back to this idea of trying to really speak on behalf of the second generation. And as I used to allude to many times in the past, it's not intended just for second generation, but really for all of these different parties to come together and to share ideas and to reach a level of understanding. In particular, for me, from the perspective of a second gen, in order so that perspective is available and present for everyone. Because, over this last week and a half, as I was traveling together with the Hawaiian members and I was meeting some of the members in LA, I was really engaging with some more experienced leaders here in American Providence who I hadn't really spoken to before, and we had so many meaningful conversations, and not all of them, we didn't necessarily agree on everything, right? And it's not that we disagreed either, but we presented different ideas and we're trying to come to this place of understanding, and it was a very meaningful discussion. And at the core and at the root of it was the Lord, was His history, was everything that we're doing, and so not to say that everything resolved itself in the end, but we always brought it back to that core, and it helped us reach a new level of conversation. And that's what this segment was always supposed to be about too. I think as an addendum to that, which I haven't really spoken about before, but I think was kind of implied, but I want to make a little bit more evident and clear today, is I'm also speaking to the second generation as well. Because one thing that I've noticed is that, we're all in different phases of our faith and of our life. And, there's some experiences that I would love to share to, my other second generation, brothers and sisters out there. Speaking from my experiences, speaking from shared experiences that I've seen all across the board, not just with second gen, but just with all the leaders that, I've gotten to be able to interact with in this way. And I think this is really important because we have to share this. And the more people that I talk to, the more I realize just how important it is to share from our experience and to really to be able to listen to one another. Like for me too, I'm 26 this year, and I'm hitting, my late 20s. And there's been just so many valuable things that I've gotten from actually speaking to older members and from leaders, from Blessed Family, and things that I didn't understand growing up. I'm able to see with a clearer lens and a better view of the different things I didn't see growing up. And so while I'm speaking for the second gen, and many times I'm speaking to the second generation, because I really believe that the role of second generation is very important too. And I guess kind of related to this, for everyone, One of the reasons why I'm taking the time out to address this today and to state this specifically is because the more diversified this channel with the MSD 117.8 becomes. Nowadays we have a comedy segment, the Man Cave segment, the Provipuff Girls segment, and so many different more specified different content as days go by. I feel the need to be a lot more specific with the things that we address on 2G Talks as well, right? Because we go to these specific tailored segments in order to hear something very specific. And through that specificity, we really enhanced our understanding of that particular thing. And I think the greater expertise in that area helps us to understand further about things that we're curious about. So I really felt the need to kind of redirect focus in that way. And so going forward, there might be certain things that I say that might not exactly represent the opinions of everyone, right? As I mentioned, because in a way, this segment is also meant to speak to the second generation. So it might not speak for all second generation people, and it might not also represent and speak about people who I might be referencing in different ideas and trains of thoughts too. But as kind of a final part of this notice, if there's any specific questions or any different concepts, ideas that you want to reference to the second gen, please leave them in the comments down below, and I'll be monitoring the comments for this segment in particular a lot more carefully as I go into each week. And I know you guys have done that before, and I apologize if there's anything that I haven't been able to get to, but if there's anything in particular, right, at any point, please feel free to write it below, or if there's some other question, feel free to send them to Pastor Sky, to send them to me, or to find some way to communicate that to me. I have the email and the link, but if you prefer a more personal and direct way of communicating, we have so many different platforms that we typically use here in the Western nations, so feel free to use any of those to contact me as well. So that all being said, what is today's topic that I'm going to get into, for this remaining time? And this concept has to do with this idea of understanding and understanding each other. And for me, I think understanding is a key component to what we need for providence. And this comes up because of a conversation that we had for this week's Man Cave episode, and it was a really great conversation topic. We got into so many things, so I'll wait for you guys to be able to get to that segment and episode when it comes out. But I guess I wanted to expand on some of the things that we talked about, and I thought this was kind of like a very rich area coming from a second generation person, and as well as something that I think is helpful for I would say longevity in providence and for long-term success. You both, personal longevity, which is the goal, and long-term success for churches and for, countries and for providence overall. So understanding, I say, is key. And, across the board in providence, just by the nature of who we are and the words that we learn, the lessons that we study, and the life that we try to live, I would say that across the board, people generally have a decent level of understanding, of empathy and openness and patience, all of those kind of characteristics towards one another. But I've really seen that to be successful in providence, like withstanding the test of time and going until the end, understanding to an extreme level is insanely important. And this is kind of something that we will brush upon in the Man Cave episode, but I really seen this play out in my personal life and for second gen, for the youth, for even all the way from Milky Way, but to SS, to campus career, blessed family, like across the board, this has been so important. And it impacts the youth, I think, even more significantly, but it impacts, adults as well. And actually, in a way, when it comes to the point that it impacts those who are more mature, who are adults who have been here a long time, it can have, I think, more drastic repercussions if understanding is not present. And to sum it down simply, and I think in a way that everyone can that it relates to everyone and that you've all experienced, is that you can experience so many great and nice things, right, from someone. from leaders and from colleagues, from members, from your even family members as well, and from your loved ones. So you can experience all of these things. You can experience 99 great things, but for many people and for most people, when they experience that one thing that is like a negative experience from someone, where you feel that lack of understanding and that apathy, that's the thing that will turn you off from that person, who you had that negative experience with. And sometimes even from the larger sort of sphere that you're kind of associating with that person at large. And so I really see that understanding is so important, because it leads to so many issues if it's not dished out. And so I really seen that like I said, everyone in Providence to a certain level has a great depth of understanding and of that patience and good character. And so for the most part, there's not an issue. But where the issue arises if it doesn't go to the extreme. And so understanding is something that across the board in Providence that we need to the extreme. And so we had this conversation yesterday, and it was such a good one about different kind of leaders and what we hope for in leaders, what kind of characteristics that we hope to see. And some of these characteristics were more physical, like, oh, is it better to have a male leader, a female leader? Is it better to have a single leader, or someone who is a blessed family, or stuff of that kind of character? And all of those kind of considerations are important. And I think there's an exciting conversation. I think it was like the 10th episode of Man Cave, which probably won't come out for a while. But related to that, all of these characteristics, these more external and physical characteristics that are kind of maybe a little bit more immutable, are kind of things that are hard to change. But this characteristics of being understanding, I think, can vary even among people who are, like we said, male or female, or married, or a face or a single. And so it really depends case by case. But the people who we need, who can like kind of run until the end and can manage lives and take them all the way to the end, and will make it so that in that one instance where there might be negative issues or negative kind of events that could transpire, will be the kind of person who can go to the extreme and make sure that even in that one case that nothing bad will happen, it needs to be someone with that extreme patience and understanding. And I think across the board, all across Providence, there will be people who you associate with that kind of character, and I think everyone has seen that it's actually that kind of person who we need in the kind of roles that are like nurturing, that are leading the church and doing things of that kind of nature. And so as a second generation, I just wanted to mention that for today's topic. But once again, I'm so excited to kind of like pitch in this new direction again. It's an old new direction, but I really want to get into these kind of topics, really kind of bridging the gap between all of us, all across the world and all across Providence too. And so even if there's a particularly tricky subject that you have experienced in your life of faith until now in your country or in your local church, please feel free to bring them up in the comments below, because like we said, I think this is a place where we can discuss all of these things too. And if we talk about it here, then even in the comment section you can have a good dialogue going, and not just that too, we want to remedy and to treat some of these things as well. Right, like in for each person throughout your life of faith, there might be difficulties and hardships that you might have gone through. Something we talked about it in his last story letter as well. Like even when he was young, he went through so many things, so many roadblocks that he didn't understand at the time. And each of us have overcome things of that nature. And I myself have faced so many of those things too. And so each of those roadblocks, each of those like kind of things that got in our way could have been the thing that killed your faith, and yet you made it to this point. And same thing with myself, and same thing with each person. And so we need to overcome those roadblocks. And so if another person, if the person who we're sitting right next to spiritually has that thing that will help get us past that roadblock, then it's something that we need to share in the best way, in the right way, in a way that will really open up each other's hearts. So I hope that this in part kind of moved your guys' hearts today, and that if there's something that you're going through, that you'll have that renewed hope and that renewed vigor and that boldness to take it on head first, even if you're not exactly sure what the solution and the answer might be at the time, for the time being. But anyways, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed today's segment, and I'll catch you guys on another week's episode of 2G Talks.
All right, and thank you so much, Eddie, for another wonderful episode of 2G Talks, bringing it back to the original intent of why you made this. Hope you guys really enjoyed that. If you got a ton of questions, go ahead, put in the comments below. He'd love to hear your comments or questions that he can answer for the next 2G Talks next Monday too. What a great time we had, and I hope that you guys are going to be excited even more for the rest of this week. It is the last week of June. Enjoy it. Right now, it's awesome weather in Vancouver, and the sun goes down at 9:24 p.m., which means we have like sunlight until like 10:15 around there. But either way, I'm enjoying it and loving it here. Everyone, have an amazing and awesome day. Have an awesome Monday, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly, so let's realign. Just listen and fill your mind.